Americans suffer from depression. 80% of those recover with treatment, but there are 20% that continue to have unresolved symptoms. Have you exhausted all medications and therapies to combat the suffocating thoughts? Do you suffer from a terminal illness, severe mental health disorders, or just a chronic substandard of living? Has life taken away every precious thing you've ever known? Do you find yourself asking if you have ever been truly capable of happiness? If you feel it's time for it all to just stop, then it's time for Ascension.
Right, greetings everybody. Welcome to Relentless. It's rather a special episode of Relentless. It's Robin here from Courage is the Cure. It's the 25th of January 2024. That intro part, the video there is brought to you by Impatient Productions, and I'm very pleased to have the co-owners and writers of Impatient Productions here today. It's very difficult to distinguish satire from perceived reality, I guess I could say, at the moment. So I'm going to bring on first Sarah to the stage. Hi, Sarah. How are you?
Okay. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah. What time is it there?
It's 9:14 a.m. Thursday.
Well, good morning then. Yeah. Thank you for.
And we'll add Derek. Hi, Derek. How you going?
Hey, how's it going? Good morning. Good night. Good afternoon.
Yeah. All the above. Yeah. So the little clip at the start there, as I said, the video is actually called Ascension Terminal Wellness from your YouTube channel, which is Inpatient Productions. And I mentioned about the difficulty that we have these days with distinguishing between satire and actual or truth. And I think that little clip there from your YouTube says it quite nicely. We've had quite a reaction on social media over the past few days with another video of yours. I'm going to play 30 seconds of it. Derek, can you tell everyone the title of this video that I'm going to play?
Okay, the title of the video that you're about to play is called Uncle Ernie, It's Okay to Pass Away.
Here we go, everyone.
It's okay to pass away today. It's okay to pass away. It's okay to pass away today. It's okay to pass away. They'll put you in an urn or they'll put you in a grave. Either way, for certain gonna happen someday. Some say it's wrong and they'll tell you just to pray, but it's okay to pass away.
Right, so we'll leave it there for now. Who wants to start off? Because the reaction on social media, I have to say, has surprised me. Yeah, I don't know. Derek or Sarah, do you want to tell everybody about that song there?
Right. Well, how Uncle Ernie came about was we did, first of all, to start it all off, we've been doing this ARG campaign campaign, because that's what this is. Are you familiar with that term? Like an augmented reality campaign?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we've been doing this since August is when we initially first started this, but we weren't getting a lot of traction with the first commercial. And the reason being because in America, and I don't know if it's like this in Canada too, because I know there's only a few countries on Earth that do this, but those kind of pharmaceutical ads are so commonplace that people thought that it was just another ad for an antidepressant, and it went over their heads completely. So the people who got it, but it kind of stayed within an echo chamber of people who understood satire, but didn't catch enough of that national attention. And the Uncle Ernie character is a character that's kind of just like an ancillary character within the script and world of terminal wellness, because it's just an element of the story. You know what I mean?
As is the commercial. Yeah.
Right. And when we weren't seeing the reaction that we got from the first commercial, it kind of dawned on me, rather than saving this particular sketch as just like a blip in the movie, if we would have put this forth, then it would be pretty direct in people's faces and there would be a reaction. And it's interesting enough, we in the script, there is a group that opposes the Ascension Terminal Wellness Centers, and it's called LIVE, the Liberators for International Violence and Exploitation, which kind of draws comparisons to like QAnon and, you know, like loosely based and backwards conspiracy groups with no clear definition and usually wrong about things. And this is coming from somebody who, like, you know, bought Behold a Pale Horse and David Icke books in the early 2000s. Like, I've been there. I know, I'm aware of a lot of things, but I'm also aware of how prevalent I think, what's the term called? Conspiratainment or something like that. You've probably heard it in the echo chambers of what you've called the freedom fighters. But the interesting thing about freedom fighters and just this conspiracy online culture is that a lot of them are completely impervious to like the actual truths of the world, you know, and they can't even pass through what is like helping advance what they think they, you know, have a foothold in, or like actual propaganda. Which also speaks to the efficiency of propaganda too, because it, like you said at the beginning, it has blended so well to this point that it is indistinguishable. So that was kind of the approach and thought process, and it seems like it's panning out a little bit, but didn't anticipate all the death threats. That's the one thing.
Do you know, that's one of the things that really surprised me is the reaction that it's had online. I mean, of course, you know, there's a group of people I would expect that from, but just as equally, there's another group of people I wouldn't expect the kind of vitriol, really, because, you know, particularly over the past few years, people have become a lot more aware of the nature that not only mainstream media works, but, you know, the propaganda campaigns that the government spits out there across that, you know, TV, the box that sits in people's lounge rooms. You just mentioned ad campaigns. In Australia, we don't have, they're not allowed to promote, you know, big pharma on your TV. New Zealand, however, is one country that allows that, just like in America. So, you know, that terminal wellness ad, if people aren't aware of that, you know, line of satire and, you know, trying to invoke a response from people, they automatically just revert to negative response, and yet don't realize that the three-letter agencies, the government, big pharma are actually doing that to us.
And that's it's an amazing thing, and I draw comparisons to many different conspiracies that happen in real time, and then people are so caught up in social media. Social media is the one thing you can point to in the past like 10 years or so, but like you alluded to, television prior to that, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
the nature of the internet is as it's been drawn and quartered by private corporations and like in conjunction with governments, and then the nature of that is just like ... and then you can kind of fill in the blanks of what that really means and what's the purpose and goal behind it. And it's almost like a pick your own ending kind of situation, because there's many ones you can go to. But if you do your research, which again, interesting enough, a lot of these people don't even do 3 clicks to see that it's parody.
That's right.
That like
What clickbait? What?
Yeah, a lot of these same people, you know, they claim to have, you know, this, you know, this knowledge or like awareness that like the common person doesn't have about these issues that like they're not even aware aren't real. We just prior to we got on the call, I don't know if you've seen, Sarah, we can't even keep up with the comments anymore, but somebody is convinced that we're MK Ultra. They're literally they're like, no, you don't understand. This is MK Ultra. And here's the thing. I'm aware of the MK Ultra program. I know about Tom O'Neill and his book about how he's like found the nuts and bolts connections. You know, it's only a matter of time before all the documents are released. And MK Ultra was a real government program that ended, and now it's probably morphed into 8 different programs. And then there's probably programs that we talk about on shows like yours that are literally like it's like the proper is, what do they call it? Disinformation. You know what I mean? It's layers and layers and layers of disinformation.
Well, now we're in charge, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sarah, is it really difficult, you know, Uncle Urny, the song there that's you know, caused all these reactions online. Is it really that difficult to find your video online for people to just do a little bit of research? Is it really that hard to find?
It's not hard to find the video. It's also not hard to read the comments below it. That hashtag satire. But you know, people are going to come to their conclusions. We've been, you know, targeted. Like we've been accused of being the Canadian government, also MK Ultra. The things are quite amusing.
And there's a lot of different channels and a lot of independent content creators that do use satire, do use parody. And, you know, we have the mis and disinformation bill set to come in this year in Australia, but there's many exceptions. Of course, the government's exempted, mainstream media is exempted, and parody is exempted. And as I said, there's a lot of independent creators that use that. You know, but why did you choose to use parody and satire to communicate a really serious point? Because it's a really serious point.
I think that this is just in league with the nature of all the productions we've done since 2019. Because a little bit of backstory, our first you know, project that we ever did was a web series called Code Green. And what Code Green means is basically that is the hospital response to an all-person restraint in a psychiatric hospital, because both me and Sarah worked in psychiatric hospitals, and we pretty much made a workplace comedy about working in a psych hospital, because I mean I make no qualms about it. I have bipolar disorder, and you know, I've gone through medication changes and stuff like that. And while working in a psych hospital, it was an interesting situation to say the least. So it's funny because, you know, more and more backstory. Sarah's a comedian, and I used to be a comedy rapper for years. Like we met a long time ago, and we both independently were like secretly writing a pilot,
the same pilot, basically,
about the same thing. And then I hit her up like, hey, you know, I'm just a rapper and I'm trying to get into the writing thing, and I know you worked in psych. I got this idea. And then she basically was like, you know, same here.
No
you know, like yeah. So, you know, we basically spent years developing and then eventually releasing the first, and it's on the YouTube page. People can find those videos on the same Inpatient Productions YouTube page. And we had I don't know if you know the show, the American show The Sopranos, but we had an actor from The Sopranos Frank Santarelli was on it. And there was only 6 episodes, and each one was basically a, you know, like a one-off, but loosely connected, all about the different aspects of having mental health issues and working in healthcare, and the hospital being severely underfunded. All which are
all very true things happening and every day.
Yeah,
and that's the parody aspect that you're talking about too, is like, why parody? To point out to people what they don't want to look at anyways. That they're not looking at what's really going on.
Yeah, because to bring it back to Code Green, our first presentation of dark subject matter in a comedic light, we were realizing that like all pop culture depictions of psych hospitals were like literally American Horror Story, or like this like antiquated open air sanitarium, which would probably be more advantageous to the problems we have today, but it's just not the actual case.
It's not funded like that unless you got $1 million and you have your own psych hospital. Yeah,
it's more like 4 white walls and then a nurse with a pill problem trying to tell you, you know, not to kill yourself, but also trying to kill themselves in the bathroom. You know, so we started the subject matter, and you know, and I think both of us having backgrounds of comedy, because it's just how we deal with life. You know what I mean? And you know.
So just to confirm for our audience, you don't work for the Canadian government. You're not part of MK Ultra.
I was fired yesterday. Yeah.
No, as far as I know. And if I am, I want a fucking paycheck, man. I am sick of changing and change to live every day. Like it's awful. So
I guess we could put it out there. You're trying to bring awareness to some really important issues out there that people just don't want to look at. This is one of the things on my Morning Rise show yesterday. I did play part of Uncle Urny, and just looking at the comments as I was playing it, because it's a live show, and some people were disturbed by it. You know, you would have seen all the comments before on every other platform, but I pointed out that, isn't it, well, one, people should be more disturbed about, for example, MAiDs, you know, medically assisted suicide, which, you know, they were talking about lowering, you know, changing the eligibility and talking about children up to 12 months old who have a disability, or now they want to expand it into people with mental health. You know, people should be more concerned about that. And that, you know, we have people like the health minister in Canada, Mark Holland, getting on TV, and other countries that have, you know, this suicide program on mainstream media, prime time television, talking about this like it's just nonchalant, just like it's an everyday type thing. And children are walking past that, and they're absorbing that. And for some reason, that's not disturbing to people. That's completely acceptable to have that on primetime TV during your 6 o'clock news show. And yet Uncle Urny, for some reason, has caused some big mind explosion.
That evil Muppet, yeah.
I guess a Muppet urn is a lot more terrifying than the, you know, horrifying truths of reality, you know.
Right. Yeah.
And it's funny, you know, it's not funny at all, but that is the when they I think it was 2021 is when I read the article. Oh no, it was 2020. What year is it? 2024. Yeah. 2022 when I first read the article about MAiD expanding you know, to include mental health problems. And that's when it came to me all at once. I was like, having worked in the underfunded, failed mental health system in America, it's a one-size-fits-all pharmaceutical approach that I have been subject to and then been a part of pushing as a staff member. And I was like, this is the type of solution that they would implement here, and they would do it at insane profit and probably market it in a family-friendly way, you know, which they do.
Well, Derek, I'm glad you just said marketing it in a family friendly way, because if we remember back to November 2022, there was an ad brought out by a fashion retailer, Simons. I'm just going to add this to the stage to remind everybody about this.
Sacred. When I imagine my final days, I see bubbles. I see the ocean. I see music. Even now, as I seek help to end my life, there is still so much beauty. You just have to be brave enough to see it.
I'm sorry. That's so fucked up.
Yeah,
That's
this
so
is
fucked up.
an ad from a Quebec-based retailer, Simons, and
What do they
you know,
sell?
clothing.
What the hell does
And
that
apparently, the lady that took employed the services of MAiD, her name was Jennifer Hatch, and she had a very complicated syndrome and a lot of pain and things like this. But apparently, what's his name? Peter Simons, the chief merchant for Simons, this company, clothing retailer, he wanted to do this documentary project to highlight MAiDs and to inspire people. It was supposed to inspire people, not glamorize suicide or anything like that. So it's quite remarkable that, as you just mentioned, Derek, you know, promoting medically assisted suicide as a family friendly ad. And again, and once again, I'm going back to primetime TV. You know, it's extraordinary what we accept. Not only, you know, are they marketing big pharma drugs to drug everybody up to the eyeballs, you know, they're marketing and making assisted suicide family friendly.
And I just want to take the opportunity, I don't mean to cut you off, say that we don't oppose, like, I take pharmaceutical psychiatric medication, okay? And that's okay. I don't think every single, I also didn't start taking it till I was 25 years old. In America, they put children on psych medications when they're about 8 years old. And I was lucky to have, and that was suggested for me because, big shock, I was a strange kid, you know, and they, you know, suggested, you know, at the time it was Ritalin, you know.
Yeah.
Fast forward 30 years, there's a shortage on the drug Adderall in the country and on benzodiazepines, which half my family was addicted to. You know what I mean? Like, they overprescribe, and, you know, they say that it's on the consumer's choice, which is it's true, and that is the blessing and curse of freedom. But there's also, you know, unregulated, unchecked, pure evil, just intent for profit with blind regard for human life, you know, and
which people didn't wake up to until the opiate epidemic started, and then they're like, oh wait, but now it's affecting my life. Oh yeah.
And so we're not against pharmaceutical, you know, drugs, and we're not against medically assisted suicide for people who have terminal illness and stuff like that. Just I mean, personally, I can say I'm just not for it as a first line of treatment for mental health issues, you know, like,
or
and
for children.
I think that's a healthy position to have, you know.
Yeah. I mean, when did we go from healthcare into death care? You know, for particularly in Canada, for, you know, veterans, they're offering it to people, disabled people and people in poverty as a solution. That's where we are. We're going over from healthcare into death care. You know,
so sorry to cut you off, but my husband's a veteran, and he's lost a lot of friends because it's like 22 veterans a day commit suicide, and it's insane that the amount that people that it affects. If it's not affecting you, it affects someone you know.
Yeah, like, I've had 3 suicides in 10 years. One of them was my best friend, which led to the end of my comedy rap career because it was hard to make jokes about. stuff for a while. And then we came back with Code Green, and that helped me. And all of this thing, and I feel like this is an important part for people to take away if they're watching this and they might have like an idea of doing something similar. It's very therapeutic, and even if it's not for a profit, it's just something, to be done, and it just happens that it's resonating with people, and we're pursuing it this way. But
or just hitting a nerve.
Yeah, and I think particularly in the past 4 years, there's so much going on, and because we're all on social media now, we're constantly bombarded by these psychopaths and sociopaths that have perceived authority and want to run the world, and we're bombarded by the infectious nature of their activities. It can become just too much, and we do need that relief, that outlet of comedy, of parody, of satire, because otherwise we'd just lose our minds. If we would just let the bombardment just continue without some sort of comedic relief.
Anyone who's been mired in any kind of visceral situation or just had a really bad day knows that cracking a joke about it, about yourself, about the elephant in the room, 9 times out of 10 is going to alleviate the pressure, the situation. And I've done it my whole life just to, move the day along, because sometimes there'll be like, just whatever instance where, there's an elephant in the room and nobody talks about it. You crack a joke about it, then the day, moves, the problem solved. You know what I mean? Or in any case, the problem's addressed. And that's really the whole goal of this project.
Yeah, I don't know one comedian who's like, oh, everything was fine, and that's why I became a comic.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Oh dear, I think everybody's day, it's kind of one of those weird things. Everyone's day is a little bit brighter, when you can have a comedian stand up there and highlight the insanity of the things that are going on around us, and we can have a bit of a laugh about it. It sounds strange, but it is a highlight of some people's day when they get home, and they've been surrounded by all of that craziness. So has the reaction on social media since Uncle Urny has gone viral, has it surprised you, the reactions that you've got?
In some ways, yes. In a lot of ways it was expected. Pretty
anticipated, yeah.
We anticipated a backlash, not just a message a minute wishing our death, but also, at the same time, we're dealing with delicate subject matter. Some people, most people, and I understand this, and this is kind of the purpose of satire as such. They only see the surface of children dying, and that's it. You know what I mean? And they may have suffered a loss, so whatever it may be, and the joke maybe not be for them. And so I would anticipate an almost equal amount of backlash as people favoring it, because my whole life I've been a fan of Trey Parker and Matt Stone, Always Sunny in Philadelphia, these satirical shows that touch on the nerve of societal issues, and every great episode has an equal amount backlash and reception. So it's just always crazy when people are trying to hack your account and hitting up your girlfriend, threatening them, so I guess I didn't anticipate like the people around me catching the backlash. And that's just, an unfortunate aspect of human nature. They don't even know who to attack. They attack everyone around you just to make some kind of impact.
And they just read the title, these are the same people who are like seeing a St. Jude's commercial and shutting it off because they're like, I can't look at that. It's like, but that's real. And they're asking you to donate money. It's uncomfortable. Yep. It's supposed to be uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think, we have medically assisted suicide in Australia. the laws governing that are different, as are other things around the world. So I think maybe, perhaps some of the viewers who've just, scroll on their social media and see that, not only do they not realize it's not, that it is satire and parody, that it's actually not on YouTube Kids, right?
No.
Correct. That was the absolute last thought in either of our minds to, like, jokingly or not, target that to children. Like, that was never the intention on it, but someone just said, this is being targeted to children, and that is the tweet that took off.
Yes.
And the other thing, which I was started off with about the laws, is that, perhaps for some people around the world in different countries, who, this issue of medically assisted suicide isn't a big thing in their country, or perhaps doesn't exist, it might cause alarm. Uncle Ernie, with the sight of children in wheelchairs, might be cause for alarm for them because, it's not an issue in their country, which, I hope would spark them to have a little bit of a look around the world to other countries where it is legal and where they're changing the eligibility for children to look at that.
It's honestly restored my faith a little bit in humanity because people are upset. I'm like, oh, all right, that still exists, but then we get a death threat. So yeah, no.
Yeah, it's definitely something for people to look at and then see what the path is in their own country or state, or because whether it's some World Economic Forum directive to depopulate the earth, maybe, or just sheer profit because people want an easy buck and it's easy to get, to play on people's emotions. It's hard telling when you're in the midst of it. And we'll only know if we survive, 30, 40 years from now when, people are writing about these times.
When the Netflix special comes out or whatever, the next series. Yeah,
exactly.
You were just talking about profit. There was an article, I'm just going to pop it up in front of our faces quickly, that medically assisted deaths in Canada prove a growing boom. It's misspelled. It's terrible. In organ donations. And so, people are talking, they're reporting about it, that, they're profiting from MAiDs in Canada, for organ donations. It's so, if people haven't thought about things like this, maybe you should. Even funeral centres now have special rooms in Canada where it's an all-in-one service.
Honestly, that's what's so crazy about this, because we, started writing the script 2 years ago. Like, we didn't know about the children, lowering the age. And then the time that it takes to produce these things is months. You know what I mean? It's not like we just hop in a studio and then it's done. So it's crazy that, like, in the time that we are putting this together, reality, kicks in. We can't keep up with it. Like, the cat out of the bed.
It is written in. It is written in. However, that article was like, whoa, all right, that's the timing.
And like the organ donation for sale thing, like, these are like subplot points that, like, you know what I mean? Like,
don't worry, they're written in. Yeah.
But like, it's actually reality, which is crazy. It goes back to what you said at the beginning of the interview. It's literally become blended.
Yeah, I watched an interview last night of a funeral director in Canada, and he was saying, having the suicide rooms in the funeral homes, he walks you through it and he shows you how lovely and beautiful it is, and talking about what a beautiful option it is.
How much money he's going to make. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And like you just said, Derek, before, it's not to say that medically assisted suicide shouldn't be an option for people. Yet, we have people with terminal illnesses. Obviously I don't have one, and it must be awful for people that do. So I'm not suggesting at all that it shouldn't be an option for people.
No, right. I'm sorry. That's why we made the juxtaposition of the term terminal wellness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they're making, like you said, the death industry. You know what I mean? Like that.
Yep.
You nailed it. That's what's
Yep.
happening.
Yeah. So it's just quite astounding that again, I'll say it again, that it's perfectly legit and acceptable to have, you know, a funeral director on TV, prime time, telling you it's a beautiful option, and yet when somebody wants to draw attention to this and prick somebody's thoughts and say, hello people, can we take a little bit of a step back and have a bit of a think about it? For some reason that's provocative, and you know, you two are just sick people. You know, there's something wrong with you. You know, it it just blows my mind. You know,
I think it's a lot. I think it's a lot easier to get outraged at a YouTube video than to do the groundwork of figuring out what is happening at a local and state level in your government and how is it affecting you. You know.
Yeah, I think people perhaps don't want to do that because it does require them to go within themselves, and people are people just want to go to work, come home, watch the TV, go on their holidays, and you know, when something's put in front of them where they have to have a little bit of a think about their existence, their loved ones, people around them, and then humanity as a whole, because, you know, this death industry, this death cult, as I call it, is an attack on humanity. That becomes too much for people, and they don't want to think about it. So little old, you know, Uncle Ernie is just too much for people. They don't want to go that deep inside them.
Yeah, no.
It's so funny. People are strange. People are very strange.
Oh, bed. Oh, existential crisis. Rather do that. Yeah.
No.
So you've just before we started recording, you were talking about your film. Would you like to talk about that to everybody, and what that's called, what that's about, and where you're going with that?
Yeah, definitely. So terminal wellness, it's about love at first sight at an assisted suicide clinic in the future. And it follows a protagonist named Greg. And he's basically a failed app developer who, you know, after he fails his relationship, he looks to seek the services of Ascension Terminal Wellness. And you know, without giving away the whole plot of the movie, he basically falls in love at the Ascension Terminal Wellness Clinic, and then he has to reconsider, does he want to go through with this? And the movie is loaded with a lot of commentary on what we're talking about today, the so-called like freedom fighters who are completely misinformed and attacking the wrong people at, you know, at an alarming rate. And then also, you know, big pharma overreaching. And then we also get into, you know, artificial intelligence, because in this world,
we had fun with the future.
Yeah, we had fun with the future, because also in this film, the president of the United States is an AI computer program that's modeled after a popular podcaster. So, and we won't tell what his opponent is, but it's basically, you know, a future society in which AI avatars are running the country. Big pharma is pushing suicide down everybody's throat, and there seems to be no solution in sight. And then these two people fall in love in the face of it all. And that's what's interesting, is that there's so much controversy, and it's really like a dark romantic comedy at its core. You know, I mean, it's over the top with all the elements, and people will expect the same kind of humor that they found in these promotional videos. But at the end of the day, it's about how love can save you, you know, which is, I guess, is controversial.
Yeah, right. Well, just thinking about, you know, AI and an avatar running society in the future, you know, it makes me think about our moral compass, you know, and that our moral compass seems to be broken and distorted, and it's not difficult to imagine a future where AI and an avatar would be running society, and society in general would accept it because our moral compass is broken.
Every major corporation on Earth just about right now is changing their core infrastructure to AI-based systems. So to think that they're not going to implement that in government, again, people remember whenever this podcast came out, because it's going to happen in a few years, and it'll probably start with a local government in a small town where everybody's already checked out and just making money and not caring about anything anyways. And they'll do it there and see how it goes from there. And again, whether this is part of some larger plan or just a combination of people being lazy and wanting maximum profit at the expense of others, it's worth examining whether it's part of your conspiracy storyline or if it's just nuts and bolts, like evil people making money. You know, I think it's important to talk about it.
Yeah. And I mean, do you think we're very far away from, you know, because there's this part of MAiDs or, you know, euthanasia is, you know, you have a right to die, and yes, you know, great. But do you think we're far away from you have a right to die to, in the future, it's your obligation to die? You know, if they decide you're a drain on the system or whatever it might be, do you think we're far away from moving to that?
Slippery slope, right?
Yeah, it's so funny. Have you ever seen the film Midsommar? You know what that is? Midsommar. Ari Aster. He's an American horror film director. Is that familiar at all to you?
No,
well,
no.
In any case, they go to this like I think it's in Norway or whatever, and it's like this cult, and it's basically every year it's a ritual for the old people to kill themselves.
Right.
And it's so funny because like that's a concept that if we don't, like, you know, dig our heels in a little bit and think about it, that like that policy might come into an effect. You might start with you know, you're over 65, you can't drive, and then you're over 65, you're not your healthcare proxy anymore. You know, like it is a slippery slope, you know. And it's a hard discussion to have, I think, and especially in America right now, because bodily autonomy is not as firm as an issue as,
you know, 50 years ago. Yeah,
as you would imagine. Yeah, so that's why I think it's a unique time to make the film and talk about these things, because it's a nuanced issue. And it's funny because when one of the first reactions we got back in the summer when we did the first commercial with Paul Kandarian, shout out to Paul. He plays Dr. Roberts in the film.
So convincing. Yeah,
he's awesome. And people reacted in this Facebook group saying that I was ageist and we were implying that old people had to kill themselves. And then they said in the comments, and this person themselves was in their 60s, and that's probably why they felt, you know, like you were saying, a lot of reflection, seeing things like that. And then he was like, "You're ageist. You should, yeah. Why don't you talk about abortion or something someone your age can understand?" And then I basically it's put off like an essay about how much suicide has affected my life in the past 10 years, and how that is the problem of my generation. And we're not ageist. This is a left, right, old, young, everybody issue that we need to talk about.
Doesn't matter what country. Yeah, like it's a global thing.
Yeah. And why do you think it is that when governments or multinational corporations or three-letter agencies present something as controversial as, you know, assisted suicide, when that's presented to people by them, it's perfectly acceptable. But when it might be a YouTube channel or, you know, another social media platform creator, you know, presents it, why do you think people have this difficulty in accepting that, but it's okay from the government and these three-letter agencies who supposedly care about you?
You will appreciate this answer because it goes back to my early conspiracy days. I read a book in 2004, and this is like the real nuts and bolts kind of conspiracies I'm into. It was called The 4 Arguments for the Elimination of Television. Now, why was that book written? Well, because the guy who wrote it, he worked in television advertising throughout the 70s and into the early 80s. and he saw something happen that was interesting. He saw that government agencies were co-opting news and working with private corporations to push certain news stories or products. And why I liked the book is because it was really middle of the road. And he was like, I'm not sure what is, government rhetoric being pushed. And I'm not sure what is just, people trying to get profit. But I do know this. My children are being affected by television in a strange way. And why it was broken up into 4 arguments is because it basically talked about the physiological effects, the societal effects, and then the 2 other subsequent arguments I don't remember, but it basically was, marrying the first 2. And we're talking about the internet, which is even more pervasive. But the way people process information when they're seeing something, if they've been, receiving information from like in a specific tone or from a specific set of people, and they were raised that this is like the information you believe, or even if they weren't, even if they were just left to their devices in front of the television or in front of the internet tablet for children now, your brain is going to do this thing where it reacts to, certain colors and tones and all. It's really like a really crafted effect that these people, being like major corporations, like they kind of, and it's so funny because like when you go really down the rabbit hole, you'll see the use of sigils, and like there's 2 ways that can go. You can, and that's why Sarah's smiling, because she's like, that's not true. But the fact is that it is true. And a lot of the like corporations will sit down, and it's not like they're trying to evoke a satanic ritual. They're talking about what colors are effective to hold people's attention. You know what I mean? So again, you can plug and play whatever narrative you want with this, but I think that people generally go for the most even keeled tone. If you have an extensive like vocabulary, sounds smarter than you, you're going to listen to them. You know what I mean? And if it's something lowbrow, like a singing urn, you're going to exert what like control and authority you think you have and be like, I'm right, because it's easier to attack that,
But people can't jump that far down the rabbit hole. They can't even click two clicks past, the Uncle Ernie video. So, yeah, that's.
Yeah, the type of conspiracy, and this has been co-opted by just, again, like the conspiratainment industry, is that people have jumped to incredible conclusions about me and Sarah being an MK Ultra and stuff based off of just reading a title. Now, the other piece of this, too, is what we talk about, mental health problems, because these people might be on an insane amount of SSRI medication, which I've been on and off, and really like that has been found evident, like that it can be incredibly effective, or it can be the complete opposite and make you literally kill yourself.
And it can help fix you as long as you have insurance.
Yeah. And the interesting part of that too, which is another part of like what we examine in the film, because it is like based in America, and health insurance in America is an insane fucking nuanced issue in itself. We talk about the availability, like say these drugs are effective, they could be effective, and then all of a sudden your insurance changes, and now you're left with in a suicidal withdrawal, because again, it goes back to the profit. You know what I mean? They don't care about it's profits over patients.
Like they even did that with insulin. Like that's
exactly
not even a mental health issue. Yeah,
exactly right there. That's a perfect example.
Just awful. See, there's no care. This is what gets me. When people think that the government cares about you, if they cared about you, they wouldn't let that happen to people, because that's dangerous to people's health. And so clearly they don't care. That's what blows my mind, is that people just don't get it. They don't see that government doesn't care about you. If they did, they wouldn't put people in those positions.
I can use a real world day job, because my day job is I work in cannabis. I have for like about 7 years. And my whole life, I went watching that go from being like, there used to be the drug war in America, right? And they used to run these anti-drug ads about how
those are pretty entertaining, yeah.
One of them, and you can look this up, and I hope you viewers do. They talked about how, I think it was in 2003, because that's when we went into Iraq. they were making a connection that like buying a bag of weed funds Al Qaeda, and they showed this like a 16-year-old kid handing off the bag, and then he gets the money and he gives it to this shady guy, and then it goes to this guy, and then it ends up with like terrorists with guns. Now cut to me 13 years, 14, 15 selling weed. I'm like, I'm in Al Qaeda. You know what I mean? Like I realized at a very young age that like the government lies, they use propaganda, and then again, plug and play what it is. And you usually don't know for about 30 to 40 years, and then you find out what was really going on. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm lucky enough to have never left that world. And I when you talk about like the government and like change, there is positive, like the government doesn't care, but this is what's cool about like at least America. Mm-hmm. What the government does, and it usually is left-leaning party, but that has been sold out for sheer corporate interest a while ago. But
hijacked, yeah.
Usually like left-leaning, like Democrats, and just so we're clear, I'm a registered independent voter, but have traditionally almost always voted Democrat because they co-opt, you know, basic human rights issues. So then if you're a decent human, you tend to be like, well, I'm going to vote that way because, you know what I mean? Like,
I'm going to hope this matters. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why the other AI here's the two AI candidates slogans in the movie. And for President Brandon, who's the current sitting AI president, it's be the brave. And then for his opponent, it's hope for change, because they just make these blanket statements, you know what I mean? Statements to just get whoever's wallet's open and whoever's dumb enough to go for the tagline. But what's cool is issues like gay marriage, what used to be abortion, but we're kind of sliding back on that, and my business, cannabis. I got arrested. I went to fucking rallies. I did the work to make it legal, and now it's my job. So I know that change can be affected. It just takes an effort when it's not legal or when it's not popular, and you just have to commit to what you believe in. And I kind of follow that through too with this project as well, because I do believe in like the message behind it and everything behind that. But I also have a message of hope that, you know, there was a time, you know, I personally got arrested several times in several states for cannabis in America. And now I pay taxes on it, you know, in a state that does actually help out its citizens as much as it can, which is massive.
Now you would just sell it to everybody's parents and grandparents. They're like, oh, thank you, Derek. Yeah,
exactly. So there's hope. There's hope.
That's we always have to remind ourselves of that, and I'm grateful that you've pointed that out too, because you know it is such a loaded issue that we're talking about, and most definitely, you know, not only the short clip part of your Ascension video and Uncle Urny, you know, the topics within those videos are certainly not popular, but more poignantly, the truth included in those is definitely not popular. We have the governments trying to make it acceptable, and you know, we just touched on why people accept the government narrative. You know, it's almost as if, you know, when people like yourselves create something as you have with Uncle Urny, that, you know, not only do you have the attacks of, oh, this is sick, it's satanic, this is evil, but, you know, it also feeds into these realms of, you know, mis and disinformation. Surely this can't be true. You know, these people are, you know, out of their minds, you know, this sort of thing. And, you know, then feeds into our governments are the only source of truth, you know, because everybody else is disseminating mis and disinformation, you know, and that's that really difficult balance that producers and writers such as yourself, I guess, you know, are you constantly trying to balance that mis and disinformation, truth versus narrative that the government's peddling out to the public, and versus the things that you're producing? Is that difficult to navigate?
I would say it would be if I wasn't. We have like a left brain, right brain relationship. If you haven't noticed here, where like I'm constantly in the conspiratorial like side of things, and then Sarah usually brings like more of like an objective view. So I'm not gonna say it's easy because creating anything isn't easy, but like these kind of sensibilities, I'm kind of in tuned with. I feel like, but creating anything is difficult, and I think something of this magnitude. For certain, right now in the past 48 hours, we're seeing the difficulty because it is like you said, like a poignant message, whatever. It struck a nerve, So with any great task comes great difficulty. But I feel like we're rolling with the punch as well.
Sarah, is there anything off limits, do you think, considering the nonsense that we're surrounded with and the things that these three-letter agencies and governments are trying to do to us? Do you think there is anything that's off limits and, oops, that's too far? Maybe, I don't know.
Where do we create that line? Who creates that line? It's like, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Guys, really right now? No one should create that line in comedy, especially. It should be pushing boundaries. It should make you think a little bit, and it's always subjective too of what's funny and what's not. You're never gonna hit it with everybody.
Yeah. What about particularly over the past 4 years? Again, there's been a lot of celebrities, musicians, comedians that have, there's been a real divide there, just like society, where people have said, right, I'm not going to talk about that because it's too provocative. I don't want to lose my audience or whatever. And then you've got, the other celebrities and comedians who have stood up and said, look, I don't care what's going to happen. Cancel me, whatever. I'm going to say my truth. How do you guys feel about that, particularly the comedians? Because there's been some really great comedians that have stood up. How do you guys feel about that over the past 4 years with celebrities and comedians and, people of notoriety?
I feel like comedians and podcasts in the past 4 years have been the objective voice of the middle. And I feel like people appreciate the power of comedy and podcasts. Not to tie them both.
Podcasting like discussion, stand up. That's not really the game.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But they go hand in hand because you'll have a great stand up, say some controversial things, and then they go on a podcast and discuss it for 3 hours. So the combination of the both is very important and has been, I think help precipitate whatever change in narrative that's taken place in international opinion over the past 4 years. Sarah is an actual comedian who, I write comedy with Sarah, but she performs at the Comedy Store and is
comedy
almost in like the nest of what you would consider the cancel culture, like woke, people or whatever. So she'd have a better take of what it's like to, have this kind of material in, this kind of scene.
To be a comedian all the time, it's always going to be, like I said, subjective, and it's always someone's not going to be okay with it if you're doing it right. Or you could just,
Yeah.
Or you could just not, and you could, make sure that you go on all the happy things and never push any boundaries. Make sure everyone's okay. I don't know who can do that, honestly. At some point, everyone's gotten canceled.
So how do you, Sarah, as a comedian, obviously you do push those boundaries. For a lot of people, it's really difficult to, have a pair in their pants, have a backbone and not give two poos about what people say, because ultimately wherever you stand you're going to upset somebody. How do you, or how have you dealt with that, being a comedian and being in the nest of sort of cancel culture and all those sorts of things? Because a lot of people aren't brave enough to do that. They're not courageous enough.
They're probably not stupid enough. Yeah, no. No, I've been a comedian for 16 years now, and not for nothing, as a woman in comedy, you do get a little bit more backlash no matter what you say, in my opinion. But you just you just do it. You just deal with it. You have a backbone. You have a thick skin after all of the things that you have to go through on stage and the internet comments and whatnot. It's like, oh no, not that again. I think it's just maybe dead inside.
Yeah, right. Okay. I see why you're a comedian. But I'm sure there's probably a little bit of truth in there, like there is with everything else, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm intrigued about your movie. Do you have a timeline for this when people would be able to look forward to seeing it?
Well, I'm glad that you bring that up, because right now we're in the development phase where we basically just signed on a line producer to get together the budget. So we know what the budget is to shoot it. We were kind of waiting for this kind of, watershed moment to really start pitching, and it seems to have happened. So anybody listening, we are actively funding the movie right now, and you can find it if you want. We can send you the Indiegogo link if you could put it in somewhere in the description,
sure.
maybe.
Absolutely.
And you could donate if you do support this project. Please donate. We have different, perks you can get. Not only the Uncle Ernie song for download, you can own it on your phone, but there's also, if you donate $30, there is a pop punk remix that you can get as well.
What's the exchange rate, Derek?
I don't know.
That's hilarious. What a ringtone, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, but so as far as people anticipating the project, I would say stay tuned to Inpatient Productions social media, and you can always go to www.terminal-wellness.com, because that is a way to see the Indiegogo directly, and we'll be posting updates there as well. How long a movie takes in general to get made is quite some time. We started, writing the script literally 2 years ago this April. So we're kind of on the normal trajectory of, what it takes to get an independent film made, but shot in the dark, hopefully within the year. We do have some interest, which is nice. And actually, me and Sarah have to talk once we get off this call, because we had today alone, we've had your interview, BBC News hit us up, and then now apparently a studio possibly interested in the film. So we don't know. And, but we're actively every day, every second working towards it. And I think at this rate, it's safe to say that it will be coming out. It's just a matter of when. And thank you so much for having us on here and giving us a chance
really
to speak
appreciate
our
it.
truth. And you've
Thank
been wonderful.
you for joining me.
Yeah.
I'll put your link so people can, if they're interested in supporting, can follow that. And also I'll put your socials in the description as well. Is there a final message, Derek and Sarah, you'd like to leave our viewers with on Relentless?
You can't change the past, but Ascension Terminal Wellness can prevent the future.
Sarah?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not made for kids. MAiD. Or is it?
Brilliant. Yeah, I know there's nothing. Well, we all lots of people have MAiDs, don't they? They like MAiD service. Anyway, see, clearly I'm not a comedian like you are, Sarah. Yeah.
It's all right. Yeah, pretty soon they'll do the at-home MAiD service. Well, they'll clean your house and then kill you. You got it. You were right there. You were right there. You got it.
Yeah. And I just want to say to everyone, if you are if you're not feeling so great today, call up your friend, or if you have a friend that isn't feeling so great, give them a call. Let's end on a positive note, and it is a serious subject matter.
On a serious note, I am a man with bipolar type 2 disorder, and I've been in an emergency room wanting to end my life, and it can get better. It just takes a combination. First and foremost, like you're saying, you have to reach out to the people that care about you. And God forbid you don't have one immediately. Do reach out. Don't be scared of the overreaching man or whatever conspiracy. Go to a hospital. Get some help. I used to work in a psych hospital, and I can tell you that not everybody there is working for MK Ultra, because I used to work at one for $13 an hour. They're just trying to, you know, get you a cup of ginger ale and get you situated.
Oh, you got 13? Yeah.
But again, thank you for having us on. And thank you anybody out there who's been sharing the video, and even the people who've been threatening our lives. Thank you too. It's keeping me on my toes.
Thanks for the algorithm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Well, it's been a real pleasure. Thanks so much, Derek and Sarah. Really appreciate it. And I'll end the show with the full version of Uncle Urny. And I hope it spikes some real conversations about what's really going on in the world, and people can just take a step back and realize that, I'm not speaking to people that work for MK Ultra, but so thanks, Derek. Thanks, Sarah. Have a great day, everyone.
You too.
It's okay to pass away today. It's okay to pass away. It's okay to pass away today. It's okay to pass away. They'll put you in an urn or they'll put you in a grave. Either way, for certain gonna happen someday. Some say it's wrong and they'll tell you just to pray, but it's okay to pass away. It's okay to pass away today. It's okay to pass away. It's okay to pass away today. It's okay to pass away. If your family is struggling, juggling the bills, really feel the burden of the doctors and your pills, call us up today and you know we're gonna say that it's okay to pass away. It's okay to pass away today. It's okay to pass away. It's okay to pass away today. It's okay to pass away. If you're sick of taking medicine, you're never getting better, and you're losing hair and weight and looking like a little skeleton, if things don't improve, and if you're approved, take a little shot and then the pain is removed. It's okay to pass away today. It's okay to pass away. Everybody say it's okay to pass away today. It's okay to pass away. It's okay to pass away today. It's okay to pass away. It's okay to pass away today. It's okay to pass away.